Hi everyone.
G'day, thanks for tuning in. Tonight we want to have a discussion about the legacy we leave. Now, when we're talking about legacy, it can be used in lots of different contexts and have lots of different meanings. What does legacy mean to you?
Something you leave behind.
Yeah, I think that's a good working definition. Legacy, something that you leave behind. And as we move through our lives, sometimes we can be so much in the present that we forget about the impact of our lives, that what's going to happen. Sometimes that can be frustrating. I was driving home the other day and there's a 3-lane road that we go to get home. And I was in the middle of that 3-lane road and a driver realised that they had to be in the right-hand turning lane at the next set of traffic lights, and they went from the left across 2 lanes of traffic and then didn't quite make it. And so they were half in, half out, blocking 2 lanes of traffic, oblivious to what was going on. They did not realise the carnage that they were leaving behind, the traffic queues, the angry fist and the honking horn. So that's one negative, but we can leave a positive legacy as well. And perhaps you're thinking about inheritance. What will my parents leave me? What will I leave for my kids? That kind of legacy. What we want to do is draw some inspiration from the Jewish scriptures tonight. I'm reading just a short passage from the book of Genesis, and we're looking at chapter 25 and chapter 27 and verse 1. It just says here, one day when Isaac was old and turning blind, he called his son Esau and said, "My son." "Yes, father," Esau said. "I am an old man now," Isaac said, "and I don't know when I may die. Take your bow and a quiver full of arrows and go out into the open country to hunt down some wild game for me. Prepare my favourite dish and bring it here for me to eat. Then I'll pronounce the blessing that belongs to you, my firstborn son, before I die." Now, so here we have a character, Isaac, who is very conscious about what he's going to leave behind. You know, I don't know if you know someone in your life who you feel is, like it says here, old and I don't know when I may die. We don't have to wait until then, but we can have that experience. And for some of us, actually, this may be even a painful thought to consider. It may be a confronting thought to consider. But we have a man who's saying, I don't know how many days I've got left. I want to make sure that what I leave behind is a good thing. And so he sends out one of his sons. He says, "Make me a meal and I will give you, in that culture, what belonged to you as the firstborn son. I'll give that to you." Now, you know a bit of the story. So what happens after this?
The younger son and the mother conspire to take the blessing.
Yes, there's a bit of a conspiracy here. The younger son disguises himself, prepares the meal. He goes back before this character, Isaac, his father, and Isaac is not sure. He asks him, he says, "Are you my son?" And he goes, "Yes, I am." And so he gives him his blessing. And now what we want to read right now is just the 2 blessings. Right? And so the blessing that gets given to Jacob, the guy who lied, the guy who disguised himself, is this. He says, here we go. I've just got to turn the page here. And then he says, "From the dew of heaven," this is the blessing, "from the dew of heaven and the richness of the earth." So he's talking about a farming community. The dew of heaven matters. The richness of the earth is how they survive. He said, "May God always bless you with abundant harvests of grain and bountiful new wine. May many nations become your servants and may they bow down to you. May you be the master of your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. All who curse you will be cursed. All who bless you will be blessed." And even as we read that, something may have stood out to you. What stood out to you?
Just the thing that through him all nations will be blessed, which sounds very similar to a promise that was given to his grandparents.
Yeah. If I'm standing before my dad and he says, "Mate, may your work be productive May the whole world bow before you. May all your other brothers and sisters bow before you. I'd be cheering. I'm like, this is a pretty good thing. It's a pretty good thing. And then there's a little bit of intrigue because this son takes that blessing, goes out, and then the actual son, Esau, comes back in. And he says, give me the blessing. And the father, Isaac, says, I've got nothing left. Yeah. I've got nothing left. And this is the blessing that he gives his second son. And it says here, you will live away from the richest of your earth, away from the dew of the heaven above. You will live by your sword and you will serve your brother. But when you decide to break free, you will shake the yoke from his neck. Is that a blessing?
It sounds more like a curse.
It does sound more like a curse.
Opposite than he gave the other one.
Now, I don't make sense of this. I read this and I think, what happened to just the phrase, and also? Yeah. If you're going to give a blessing, if you're going to leave behind something good for one of your kids, even if you favor them, why don't you just say to the other kid, and may you also have the blessing, and may you also have this, and may you, maybe not the whole world, but at least some part of it, you know? Yeah. Instead, this is what happens. Now, some scholars actually say that this was written after the event, and perhaps some people were trying to justify the relationship between two nations that came from here. But as we read this, like this morning, you made an observation about this. What do you think?
Well, first I was just like, they're just words.
They are just words.
Yeah. I mean, we know words really are never just.
But do we?
The things that are spoken. Well, some of us may, or
have you
forget.
Have you ever heard the sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me?
But we know that that's wrong.
Well, how do you know it's wrong?
I know it's wrong because I have felt those words.
Yeah.
And they have been, I think, in some ways more painful than some sticks and stones that have been.
It's very true, isn't it?
I've gotten healed from those much quicker than those words, because the words can replay in our minds and we can start to believe maybe, especially the negative ones, the truth of those. But I mean, how good are good words, like the first lot of blessings that were spoken, if you believe the truth of those, like how your life might change.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, I've had that experience. I worked for a previous employer before I started out on my own, and that employer said to me, I don't think you have what it takes to make it in this trade. And I'll be honest, there have been moments in previous years where things have been difficult and challenging. Those words have come to mind, and I've thought, I'll show you, buddy. And I hope I've moved on in my motivation, but it just shows how words can come back. As you think about this, perhaps you've had a similar experience where someone has spoken words over your life and you feel challenged by them. Now's a good moment to actually acknowledge that, to not pretend, to not live this kind of, they're just words, because we know that words impact us. Matter of fact, the scriptures say that the power of life and death is in the tongue. And our words leave a legacy. That can be a legacy in the moment. It can be a legacy for a lifetime. That sometimes we can speak a word that will bring motivation, will bring energy, will bring encouragement to someone for a lifetime. I mean, as we were discussing this a bit earlier, you shared an experience. Do you mind sharing that experience now?
No, like I had a lot of negative words spoken over me, but lots of different people in my life, some close people and some just because of the circles that I moved in. And then there was one particular time where someone just, I don't even know how the conversation came about. I think it was, God prompting things, but the person just said, "You're not made wrong." And I don't know how we got around to that, but it seemed to hit like a deep part of me that felt like I was made wrong, even if I couldn't articulate that. And so it just, in that moment, changed my life.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful, and it strikes me that even though the word stuck with you, everything else has faded, and it's just the life-giving power of those words. Our words leave a legacy. What legacy are you leaving now? Yeah, when we talk with our friends, I think we live in a culture where we're not really comfortable with people being kind. We're not really comfortable with people being affirming.
Yeah. You want to dismiss that almost straight away, or go, oh no, or whatever, when this is something that I think most people crave, to be seen, to be known, to be affirmed.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. And it can potentially lead to some awkward moments when we're talking to someone who feels uncomfortable hearing something life-giving, and yet we can speak to them. We can say, you're doing a good job. I trust you. I believe you. And those words matter. And whether it's younger people, whether it's our peer group, whether it's people that are older than us, our words can actually leave a life-giving legacy. Yeah. And I think as we look at this, the result of this is that one son leaves saying, I'm going to kill this other guy. Like literally, I'm going to kill him. I'm just going to wait till my dad dies and I'm going to take his life. And as you look at the history between these two nations, you can, and as I said before, maybe that's what these writers were trying to do, is say, well, the conflict that we're in now is because of what happened back then. But there's also a different perspective here. See, later on, there's a bit of a mystery book, a mystery truth in faith, and that's this book called Hebrews. And in a particular chapter, the writer of that book, he talks about the power of faith, the power of belief in your life. And he lists Isaac in this moment, and he says that was an act of faith. And I think that is a powerful representation. When I grew up, I felt like a lot of things had to be earned. I had to work for a lot of things. And some of that I think is healthy. When I was a kid, I had to mow the lawns, clean a little garden, and polish everyone's school shoes. And I think at least two of those things don't even happen anymore. But that happened, and so I then got my $2 pocket money for the week, which again, I'm positive doesn't happen anymore. We don't deal in that kind of money. But it developed in me a work ethic. I played in a lot of sports teams. And I think it was a good experience for me that when I went to play footy, if you were good enough, you got in. I wasn't part of a team that had too many politics. I was once a hockey player. If you were good enough, you got in. Matter of fact, if you're good enough, you got promoted up an age group. If you work hard enough, you get it. And then when it came to the power of words, I really struggled because I thought, you got to earn it. You've got to earn it. And perhaps you feel the same. I don't give out praise easily. It's got to be earned. And I think there's some truth and some power in that. I don't know, how did you feel about praise when you were earlier in your life?
I probably don't remember getting any, so it would have been a foreign thing.
Yeah, right.
And so it would have come more naturally to me to be someone who dismisses it because, no, that can't be true. Or, yeah, but I think that's the awesome thing. Even when you think about this blessing and even the way that Jesus is with people in the Bible, or the way that God calls out people, often the whole thing is that it is a faith thing. All of the things that were promised weren't seen in that moment by those people, but there's something about what God does that calls out potential in us. So we can't earn it, we can't, we can maybe move into it and then live it out, but only because someone has seen that in us. Yeah,
I think that's really good. And so I used to do that. I used to just be quite reluctant to give out praise. But the power of faith is that our God is a God who sees things that doesn't exist. A God who speaks things into existence that don't exist currently. I'll give you just a very simple example of this. During this week, I hired a guy for my landscaping business, and he did not have a good start. He got to work, he got to the train station late, and so I actually had to leave the site to go and pick up this young guy. And so we got back and I said, have you had any breakfast? he hadn't had any breakfast. Now, and I thought, I'm getting no work out of this guy if I don't give him a feed.
Yeah.
So we fed him up, put him to work. He started work at 9. I think in the first half an hour, he actually, and excuse this, I'm not trying to make anyone feel crook, but he actually threw up, like he actually vomited. And I was surprised because he did what he needed to do. He came back, went back to work. I gave him a wheelbarrow to push. He pushed it up one hill and stood there, hands on knees, gasping in the air. I'm like, he's gone, because in my line of work, there are plenty of people who just go, this is not for me, I'm out.
Yeah.
But he kept going. And then about half an hour later, another but he kept going. And everything in me wanted to just unload and say, you have got to be kidding. What are you doing, mate? Like, just unload. Yeah. But in that moment, I chose a different path. Yeah. When I had to pick him up from the train station, I didn't say, where have you been? Why are you running late? Just, how are you going? Found out that last night had been a bit of a party night for the young guy. Again, didn't call it out. But I just said, all right, mate, when we got to site, I need you to do this. Yeah. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. And when he vomited and came back, I said, are you all right to keep going? And he goes, yeah. And I said, okay, well, I need you to keep moving. When he gassed out at the top of the hill, it's all right, mate, just smaller barriers, but I need you to keep moving. And he did. He stayed. He put in a bit of overtime, because there's a deeper truth that we can actually call into existence what we may not see.
Yeah.
And if you're dealing with someone whose behavior you find difficult, it's so easy just to speak against that. So easy. And it feels so powerful and strong. And yet actually faith means calling into existence what isn't there yet. Yeah. Sometimes you might have to search and find just the smallest thing to praise someone for, to be encouraging. Sometimes it's not even there. And the goal is not to declare or condemn for what's gone bad. It's actually to speak life in and to say, this is where we wanted to go. Jesus himself says these words, I did not come into this world to condemn, but to bring life. As we move through our lives, each of us leave a legacy. Sometimes that is the legacy of a moment. I may never see this guy again. Maybe. Sometimes it's a legacy of an enduring relationship like that you may have with your partner or with your kids or with your parents. Sometimes it's a defined legacy when I worked at this place. And sometimes we will get to the stage that Isaac gets to here, where we will realize that we don't have many days left, and we will reflect on our lives and look at the legacy of a lifetime. Build your legacy. Build the legacy of faith. Experience the life that we've talked about tonight, the life of Jesus, and speak that life into other people. Leave a life-giving legacy. And for some of us, God is speaking to a moment in our lives right now where we feel challenged because we didn't leave a life-giving legacy. And for others, we're feeling the reality, this is what I want to leave behind in my life. And we would just offer you a simple next step. And that is to say, Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. And whatever has come before, just give that away now. Experience the life of Jesus for yourself. Whether that's for the first time, or whether it's for the 50th time. There's a new beginning for you as you watch this. So let's pray that together. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. And if you prayed that prayer, we would love to hear from you. Leave a comment. Message us through our social channels. We'd love to hear you and support you as you take then the next step of faith. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you.
Bye.